All right, guys, put your hands together for Action Coach Matt Morris here to share some knowledge with us. Matt Morris.
All right, thank you. All right, so quick story of my journey with Action Coach. Spent the last 28 years or so. First chapter, about 20 of those was in healthcare services in the space of operations, implementations, and support. And then stepped away from that and bought and operated 2 franchised automotive shops. And that was actually where David and I crossed paths as co-members in a local B&I chapter. He had the coaching seat, I had the automotive service seat. And this was in the midst of the pandemic. I joined one of the group programs at the time called Profit Club and benefited from that greatly. So come to Action Coach as first a client, so to speak, and now have the honor for the last year and a half or so to be partnered with Action Coach Lake Norman. I'm planted up in Hickory, so we're working from the foothills toward the lake and the greater Charlotte area. Does anybody remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, these motivational posters? All right, these things were called successories. And in one of my first offices, which was about the size of this podium here, there was a wall hanging and it said success. Success is a journey, not a destination. And it really resonated with me, number one, being an outdoorsy guy, just so many opportunities, so much potential. Even just the fact of getting in the canoe can be a challenge in itself, much less where you're going to paddle that thing to and do you have the oar. And so interesting here with respect to these successories, and it's interesting in thinking about the difference between a journey and an adventure. An adventure is kind of an external circumstances, kind of a bit of a sporadic nature, so to speak, whereas a journey is really about transformation, and it's focused on growth and personal development. And so we've talked throughout the day already, had the opportunity for many of you to pause and think about what does success look like for you. That's the beautiful thing about the success equation or the success formula in the Action Coach speak. That's dreams times goals with learning in the middle plus a plan and action equals success. And so when you think about success for you, David already mentioned Ephesians 2:10 and that we have a purpose. And understanding that purpose and stepping into that purpose gives us fulfillment and joy in life. I would echo the biblical references here, but I would call out also James 1:22, which talks about being a doer of the word. So it's an action. It's an involvement. It's not a spectator sport. And so as David and I met in B&I, and he was speaking about the success formula, be times do equals have. First envision what you want to have, more than material. This is the type of life, the type of relationships, the type of peace, the type of margin. What you want to have in life, who you want to have it with. And then on the opposite side of that equal is the be times do. What do we have to do and who do we have to become? And so that James 1:22 verse speaks that we must do what it says or we're basically fooling ourselves. So it's a very strong call to action. And so seeing that and getting some clarity in my own business at the time, joining Profit Club, we walked through the 5 ways to grow profit. And so in breaking that down, it really helped me to look at my business in a different way and understand there are countless strategies that we can test and measure with to be able to make this journey go a little bit more like what we had envisioned it to be. Is everyone here, don't raise your hand if your business feels exactly like what you thought it was going to when you started it. Don't raise your hand. So if it doesn't feel like what you expected, raise your hand. Okay, so it's more than half, I would say. So that's just an opportunity right now in this moment to acknowledge that and say, all right, let's walk this success formula that we've been talking about. So one of the key tenets within this equation is this concept of vision. And so vitally important, you notice in this illustration here compared to the one that David showed previously, there's now 2 people standing there. Mike talked about his right-hand person when he was up here earlier, that person that is his trusted advisor, that he knows he can count on, and the one that can address any situation because they've been with and part of that. Additionally, we leverage the behavioral styles with DISC, and so understanding how we communicate, understanding how others communicate, and progressing from that golden rule of treating other people how you want to be treated to really being able to walk in a path where we treat people how they want to be treated. Which first, and that's the platinum rule, and so that's the first step of really connection, is understanding them and how what you have to offer, what we have to offer in service helps to solve that desire that's within their own heart. So as we start to make our ascent, we obviously chose paths differently. There were different options. We stood back and made a plan. So we planned the work, and as simply as that then becomes in a model of success, we need to work that plan. When I go back to this, I started thinking about my career kind of just in a blink of an eye. And shockingly, this 25-year-ago wall hanging came up in my mind. And I never really thought about the impact that it had on me. And so I started looking into it. A gentleman by the name of Mac Anderson actually started these. He was fond of quick wit and inspiring sayings. And so he started a collection. This business went from that to, obviously, if you remember malls, back when we had thriving malls, they had storefronts, and it's evolved and it's ebbed and flowed. But tied to David's presentation, or his talking points, 212 degrees is the point at which water boils. 211, the water is hot, but it's still in a solid state. Mac Anderson is the author of the series 212 Degrees. It's a 3-book part, and it talks about the difference of that 1 degree change. It was really fascinating to me, though, as I looked down his book collection. The last book in that series was a book titled The Dash. And the context here is this is the dash that you might see on a grave marker or a tombstone, 1977 dash. And so the question is, what do we do with that dash? Quickly, I want to read a poem, and I want you to think about this in the context of your own path, your own journey, where you're at and where you want to be. I read of a man, and this is by the co-author of The Dash, Linda Ellis, and the title of this poem is The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that the first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But what he said mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. You're here today, you've paused. Think about this long and hard, and there's the things you'd like to change. For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way other people feel and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? Capture that in your mind. There's nothing but opportunity in front of us, air and opportunity. So with that being said, we're after those high five moments. These are the moments where teams are able to come together. It's almost impossible to fake a high five. I think it looks awkward. If you miss, what do? You're like, let's try that again, right? Like, let's really get in there. Let's get this. If you're high-fiving yourself, that's just clapping. So you need a team. So we're after those high fives, guys. And so in the context of the Action Coach Lake Norman, Action Coach here, and the history that we've shared for the last 12 plus years and my 2-year journey with David, a few comments of the impact and how people are spending their dash.
How did you guys get to the point of, even being willing to acknowledge, hey, you need a coach. There's times in things in my life where I've got this and I can do it better than the person next door. David reminds us of, hey, even top athletes all have coaches to get better at their sport. Our sport happens to be running businesses, and what can we do to get a little bit better? But where did you come to that recognition of need a coach and want to keep one?
Well, we had run the business for a number of years, and I think it was, just the family thing. There's just two of us. We needed an outside thought source to help push us. When you're a family-owned business and you're trying to make decisions for the business, you've got you and your spouse to bounce it off from. You don't have another sounding board. So he was great for that. He really helped us grow, and since then we have doubled our revenue in our Charlotte location. We bought another franchise over in Hickory and had that for about 3 years. So he's just been a phenomenal resource of helping us, guiding us, asking hard questions. Sometimes he'll make you mad, but he'll challenge you, and we need that.
That's what you
need.
need
that.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the hardest things for us because Nate and I did start in the business. It was me and him. We went out and did all the work together. In the first year we met Coach, our revenue was $8,000, and this year we're pushing $800,000. And that is just such a huge testament of who Coach is, because each step of the way, it sometimes feels like, am I even capable of going to the next level? Can I even handle a $10,000 problem? Can I handle a $30,000 problem? And just having somebody in your corner that can see the end of the tunnel when you can't, I think has been one of the best blessings we could have asked for sure.
Our conversations have always been around technically what you have to do with the job. Like the technician level, you understand what the job requires. But for me, not having that business experience of owning the business, having to make the executive decision, having David to be able to talk through that, just making sure that you know what the next step is and be willing to go in to do it with confidence. And I think a lot of that I attribute to David. I wouldn't exist without David.
Anytime I get the opportunity to try to highlight David's skill and ability to help improve businesses, I do. And as I reflect back on our decision to have a coach or not to have a coach, we're certainly better off with a coach. So if there was any of my fellow business owners, peers out there that might be thinking about, what's this coaching all about? Is it worth the investment? Is it worth my time? Is it the right person? Certainly having a conversation with David, I think, would be well worth someone's time, right, to go explore. Would you agree?
Absolutely. If you want to grow your business and you want to be more successful, the structure that he brings to you is immensely helpful to any business owner in any business.
He has a way as your business develops, and to now with knowing what your business is worth and doing business valuations and helping business owners think of what is that exit strategy, and be able to work through with David, am I setting the team in place to make sure that I capitalize on the value of my business when it's time to sell?
Any family-owned business, any fun dynamics, I would say don't waste any time. Just book the call, and it'll be well worth having a solid advice in the background there for sure.
And David's demeanor is going to be friendly and welcoming, right? I've never gotten a high-pressured sales pitch from him to either buy additional services from him or engage more in coaching. And I've gotten that feedback from other clients that he's recommended with of it's an easy conversation. And then certainly need to make the decision if it's a good fit and if it's right for the business along the way, just like we would make any other decision for any other service we're engaging with as a business.
All right, so we've partnered with Carolina Payments. You guys heard about the no pressure sales. Other than right now, they're going to be coming through with credit card machines. If you guys wouldn't mind just going ahead and getting your cards out, we'll just do a quick swipe. It's painless, I promise. But hopefully that resonated with some of you a bit. As a business owner that exited a business successfully at a 46% gain over what we had purchased for 3.5, right at 4 years prior. I know sometimes it does feel that way, but with a strategy, things get better, and or that next chapter that we're looking to create for ourselves, our family, and our communities is absolutely possible. This event is about creating an opportunity for our core philosophy is care, community, accountability, results, and education. This is us walking the walk and not just talking the talk with respect to creating a community, working toward a closer connected community, and reducing the barriers that business leaders and business owners face in unlocking the greatest potential they have, which is themselves. And so we have a program we're launching for attendees today called the 30X Challenge. And so this is a foundational and fundamental opportunity of learning, application, and accountability to get plugged in. So if you're feeling that need to get plugged in, the barrier of entry here is essentially non-existent, because if you're here today, you have access to this. This will be a self-paced learning program. You can see the modules and the flow that we'll be going through over the course of that 30 days, with coaching in a group format at the end of each week by David or myself, depending on how many sign up. We do try to cap those just for effectiveness. So basically what will happen is Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach, now in 90 plus countries, and 32 years, I believe. So these tools, these techniques are unique, and they are vetted internationally, not just locally. So they are proven and tested. And so the 30X videos are self-paced. There's an app for that, as like everything these days. So it fits you where you're at, although it is good to be able to take some notes. Post your top 3 points into a WhatsApp group that we'll be scheduling for the attendees, and then we'll be doing a weekly Zoom application and coaching session. The only cost of this is time. If you're interested in that and that speaks to where you're at versus where you want to be, this is the first step. I encourage you to take it. I so appreciate the opportunity to share some thoughts with you. It's just absolutely invigorating to see the group of people here, the caliber of people here, and the commitment that you're making to making tomorrow a better version of what you'd like than today. Thank you so much.